Imagine pulling off a heist so carefully planned, so meticulously executed, that it leaves the authorities scratching their heads for years. Now, what if I told you that one of the biggest heists in American history happened with no shots fired, no physical altercations, and no visible clues left behind? No fingerprints, no DNA, no cameras. Just a quiet, calculated move that changed everything. This is the story of the Dunbar armored robbery, a heist that's never been fully solved and where millions of dollars still remain unaccounted for. On September 13th, 1997, the city of Los Angeles was in the midst of its usual nighttime stillness. The bustling streets of downtown LA, which are a hive of activity by day, were quiet. As midnight approached, it was the kind of night where the sounds of the city fade into nothingness, the perfect backdrop for what was about to unfold. But even in the heart of LA, most of the city had no idea that the largest cash heist in U.S. history was about to go down, right under their noses. At the Dunbar Armored Facility, a quiet, almost unnoticed building in downtown, a handful of employees were finishing up their night shifts. They had no idea that one of their own, someone they trusted, was masterminding the crime of the century. Alan Pace III was a regional safety inspector for Dunbar Armored, a 30-year-old man who appeared to be an average employee, diligent, friendly, and well-liked by his colleagues. He had a sole reputation for playing harmless pranks around the office. But what no one realized was that this unassuming man was the mastermind behind a plan that would shake the foundations of the entire security industry. For months, Alan had been quietly studying the facility. He wasn't just there to check fire extinguishers and make sure the hallways were clear of obstructions. No, Alan had bigger plans. As the safety inspector, he had access to parts of the facility that most others didn't. He knew the layout of the building better than anyone. He knew the schedules of the night, guards, the camera blind spots, and the layout of the vault where millions of dollars in cash were stored, waiting to be distributed to businesses and ATMs across the city. But he didn't plan to do this alone. Alan recruited 5 of his closest childhood friends to join him in pulling off this heist. They were Eugene Hill, Eric Boyd, Freddie McCrary Jr., Terry Brown Sr., and Thomas Johnson. Each of them experienced enough to stay cool under pressure, but none of them had any idea just how big Alan's plan really was. Together, they studied every detail of the Dunbar facility. Alan took photos, memorized the rotations of the security cameras, and even observed the security guards' routines. They spent months carefully plotting their move, making sure that if one of them was caught, the others would remain silent. Their bond of loyalty was strong. This was more than just a robbery. It was a secret shared among friends. Alan had done his homework. He knew that the night of Friday the 13th was the perfect time to strike. That's when the vault would be packed with cash that would soon be transported out across the city to ATMs and businesses for the weekend rush. It was a crime of opportunity, and Alan was ready to make his move. But the clock was ticking. Just a day before the heist, Alan was called into his office. He was informed that he was being fired for tampering with company property, specifically a prank where he had removed the headlight from one of the armored trucks. The timing couldn't have been worse. Alan knew this was his last chance. The next day, he would be out of the facility for good, and with it, his access to everything he needed to carry out the heist. But the timing also worked in his favor. It was the perfect storm. He had intimate knowledge of the facility, knew exactly when the cash would be moved. And now, with no more ties to the company, he had the freedom to make his move. The crew gathered for their final briefing, and the plan was set into motion. The night of September 12th, Alan and his crew hung out at a party in Long Beach. They had already established their alibis, but as midnight approached, the party atmosphere faded. Alan and the others slipped away unnoticed, changing into black clothes, masks, and headsets to communicate without a word. Their goal, to strike at precisely the right moment. The drive from Long Beach to downtown LA took less than 30 minutes, and the streets were eerily empty. They parked their rented U-Haul truck in the lot outside the Dunbar facility. Everything had been carefully coordinated. Alan knew the guard watching the parking lot camera was distracted by a new truck, so he used this opportunity to slip through a side door. Just like that, they were inside. Moving swiftly, they followed Alan's instructions to avoid the security cameras, timing their movements perfectly. Each step, each moment, was planned with precision. They headed straight to the cafeteria where the guards would be on their break. Alan knew the timing. He knew exactly when they would be most vulnerable. One by one, the robbers ambushed the guards as they entered the cafeteria, taking them hostage without a single shot fired. Duct tape was used to bind their arms and legs. The crew didn't just neutralize the guards, they stole the key to the vault prep room, ensuring they could access the massive steel doors that housed nearly $20 million in cash. The vault was supposed to be impenetrable. Its 18-inch steel doors were designed to withstand anything. But tonight the vault was left open. Cash was piled high, waiting to be moved for the weekend's rush. Alan knew this was his moment. He led the crew into the vault, bypassing the locks with bolt cutters. They focused on the cash destined for ATM machines, large sums in $20 bills. Alan had memorized which bags contained the high-value bills, and they worked quickly, loading the sacks onto carts and pushing them toward the loading dock. In just 30 minutes, they had stolen nearly $19 million. But Alan wasn't done yet. He knew that the only way to truly get away with it was to erase all evidence of their crime. He grabbed the security tapes, both from the main system and the backup tapes stored in a locked closet. As they left the facility, they destroyed the cameras on their way out, leaving no trace of their escape. Back at the party in Long Beach, the robbers played it cool. They didn't celebrate. They didn't flash their money. Instead, they each took $100,000 in cash, enough to live on quietly, and stashed the remaining $18.2 million in a self-storage unit, just waiting for the heat to die down. Authorities were baffled. The Dunbar Company and their insurer, Lloyd's of London, offered a massive $125,000 reward for any information that could lead to the robbers' capture. But there were no fingerprints, no witnesses, no solid evidence. The police suspected it was an inside job, but who could have known so much about the facility? The investigation went cold. Alan and his crew laid low. No flashy purchases, no sudden lifestyle changes. Alan didn't even have a bank account. He was careful, meticulous, and patient. But as months passed, the crew slowly began to launder their money, buying homes and cars through straw buyers. They even attempted to destroy the evidence, the new bills with sequential serial numbers that could trace them back to the robbery. They tried burning the money, but U.S. currency is designed to be flame-resistant. So they took it to Las Vegas, hoping to gamble it away, but the new bills jammed the slot machines. Eventually, they washed the money, making it usable again. But in the end, it was Eugene Hill, one of Alan's closest friends, who made the fatal mistake. He tried to use a stack of cash, still wrapped in the original money straps, at a real estate office. The broker became suspicious and tipped off the police. Eugene's U-Haul rental records eventually linked him to the heist, and after his arrest, he quickly cracked under pressure, spilling everything. The FBI arrested Alan and the rest of the crew. Their trial began in 2001, but despite the overwhelming evidence, Alan maintained his innocence, claiming he was framed out of revenge for a personal betrayal. 4 of his accomplices pleaded guilty and were sentenced to federal prison for 7 to 10 years. Alan received 24 years. As of today, only about 7 million of the stolen 18.9 million has been recovered. Some of the money was spent on cars, homes, and other luxuries, but much of it is still unaccounted for. And it's believed that as much as $10 million could still be hidden, waiting for the right moment to surface. The question remains, once Allen completes his prison sentence, could he find a way to retrieve the missing millions? Could he disappear, change his identity, and retire on a tropical beach somewhere with a fortune that's never been fully recovered? The Dunbar armored heist is one of the most daring, meticulous, and successful crimes in American history. But the question still lingers. Where is the rest of that stolen fortune? Could the masterminds behind the heist have pulled off the perfect crime? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the greatest heists in history, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more thrilling true crime